Welcome back to the Eric Krown crypto channel, wishing you a happy early start to this Wednesday, hump day that we have on this holiday week. Likely a boring week, but there are a few things brewing in the short-term timeframes as they typically are, and then actually some very important things in the higher-term timeframes, one of which will be clarified today actually on closure for the daily, and then the next one's going to be at the end of the week, obviously. Other than that, I wanted to let you know that if you're in the quant program, a couple of new videos, a couple new strategies have been updated alongside the statistics that align with them. That's going to be strategy number 13 and 14 for a total of 16 strategies at this moment, and there might even be some more surprises before the end of the year here, but I'll wait to upload those. All right, sweet. So other than that, yesterday we were looking at a likely short-term time frame pullback before continuation, at least with the try back above 17,000 bucks. I believe that we got exactly both of those, and now the question is, what now? As we can get into the lights on, lights off argument. So let's start it off right here. I want to follow up and say short-term time frame analysis. We were looking at the 30-minute time frame as having a setup on the HPDR indicator that was one suggesting a pullback and then a bounce, and that pullback was to the tune of 0.75% all the way up to around about 1%, which is what we got over here. So what essentially is the setup? Well, closing above the blue 50% range highs on the 30-minute time frame plus a contraction of volatility, which we had exactly right here, did produce the statistical likelihood, I should say, of a pullback. And what do you know? From that setup to the next low, we have almost a percent loss right there. And then what do you know? Right after that, Bitcoin gets a nice girthy green dildo party and heads back up above 17,000 bucks, which leads us to where we're at today. And so, is there any more setups on the HPDR indicator as of right now? No. But there is some interesting things actually on the Jewel Light, which I'll show over here. So let me get rid of that. That's not relevant to the conversation, nor is this, nor is anything else other than what we're about to mark off right here. So as far as the Jewel Light goes, and I've released this strategy several times, I believe, or not several times, but on YouTube in different formats with different sort of optimizations. But basically we did see the first tick of the Jewel Light turning white below 35. Which is a fucking mouthful, but basically that initiated the setup for a likely move, or is initiating a setup for a move likely higher. So we haven't necessarily seen this play out just yet. So based off of that signature, we do expect, based off the stats over here, and by the way, I'll be releasing these around the end of the year, so you probably will get it then. If you're in the quant program, this is going to be the master statistics sheet for the strategies. And in this case, we're going to be looking at the 30-minute Jewel long vol scalp. And so these are just conditions right here. It is going to combine 100 iterations, not 50, but with this particular setup, 73 or 73% win rate did produce, well, a move in the upside direction, a tradable upside direction, I would say. And in this case, we did see that on average, this setup has produced about 1.25% to the upside. First standard deviation for the win side would show a range, a rather large range, but even as far as up to 2.5%. And on the losing side, actually very comparable in this case as well. There were a few big winners and big losers, as you can see on the min max right here. But ultimately, if we're just going off of the first standard deviation and the averages right here, we're looking somewhere around 1% to 1.25%. I'd say maybe as much as 1.5%. So from the actual setup given to where that would presumably put price action, well, we can measure that out, and 1% puts you back at about 17,000 bucks. 1.25% puts you back, well, a little bit higher, not much. 1.5% puts you at 17,060. So really not seeing a humongous difference right there, but it would suggest that short-term Bitcoin likely does continue the move higher. The reason why I'm highlighting this though is because it's going to have downstream effects, potentially, very likely I'd say, but it's going to have downstream effects on other timeframes. So let's go into it over here, and let me just bring up my notes yet again. And let's go over to the 4-hour time frame for CME. So this is the same range that we've been looking at for quite some time now. On the 4 hour, it's going to be a little bit different than the daily. This was actually technically put on the daily in this case, but on the 4-hour time frame, which is more relevant to our current conversation, you can see that the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement for the current range is basically coming in around those same numbers, 17,065 if you want to be super exact with it. So If Bitcoin cannot just trade up to there, but then close above there, we would have a range resolution and very likely see, another few $100 rally towards the 382. Anywhere between the 382 to 17,600 would be fair game. So that would give, that would obviously have more downstream effects for other higher term timeframes, which we'll get into at the end of this video. So you can see how like one domino leads to the next domino. But again, this is on a closing basis. So we don't have a range resolution until that happens. And I wouldn't necessarily say that that's lights on just yet. I know that I did say that yesterday. It would be lights on for the lower term timeframes, but really the lights on happens back above last week's breakdown point. That's where it's relevant to start to look towards 18,000 plus again, which I think is where a lot of people want to see the lights turn on, which fair enough, I do as well. But in this case, on the lower term timeframes, the lights off area, still kind of the same thing on a higher time frame, like a daily closure. So this is very, very important for a closing basis on the higher term timeframes. You could even use a 12-hour time frame as well, but basically below that 618, which is about 16,600, that's at the point where I'd say, hey, it's time to turn those damn lights off again, baby, and get ready for a move somewhere below 16,000 bucks, probably closer to 15,800 before the next sort of medium to higher term time frame bounce. While we are here on the daily, it should be known that the daily volatility is incredibly low. So we are setting up for, a rather large move outside of this range. Maybe not this week, probably next week, but it is a brewing here. And so that is when we do want to be looking at the lower term time frame structure, because those sort of resolutions can have major carry on over into a time frame like this. And right now, I still actually do favor a lights on reversal, as we went over in yesterday's video. Not even the daily, but also not the 12-hour, but the 4-hour time frame, also relatively low on volatility as well. So it is a brewing, probably not today, maybe Friday, if you will. I think it's a little more likely to fire off next week. And when I mean fire off, I mean it's like an actual range resolution here. Anyways, now that we've gone through that, I do want to get into lower term time frame stochastic momentum, and then we'll thread it through on the higher term time frames for the full picture. So the 12-hour time frame over here is actually going to see a fresh cross to the upside on a stochastic oscillator, which will happen with any sort of a closure above 16,450, which right now Bitcoin's trading almost $400 above. So I would say rather likely. We have another 2 hours and 4 seconds left till closure, but so far so good. When we go to the 6-hour time frame, the current momentum pivot is at 16,500 or just slightly below there. So that is also another good sign in the short term. 4-hour time frame also going to be showing upside as long as Bitcoin's above 16,630, a little bit close to current price action, but still decently above. And the hourly time frame is going to be freshly turning up with low volatility here, as long as Bitcoin's above 16,770. So what does that essentially say? It does essentially say that short term, we do expect this move to continue to the upside. That's also in alignment with the 30-minute Joule setup that we went over here. And then to now relate why this is very important for the higher term timeframes, as you can kind of see, one resolution leads to the next, and the next big one's like 17,060 bucks on at minimum a 4-hour time frame closing basis. Well, we can now go to the not the daily, but the 5-day, which is actually closing tonight on both spot and CME, and they're basically pivoted at the same regions. Now, a couple things of significant interest right here. One, volatility on these timeframes, very fucking low, very, very low. So not only do we have a massive compression as far as that goes, we're also seeing that it is coming from the stochastic oscillator is also coming from a very low level itself. In fact, we could even draw a nice regression trend line, not this my god-awful lines over there, right here. And that is going to remain with upside momentum as long as Bitcoin is closing today above 16,200 on spot price action, and on CME even lower, just below 16,000 bucks, as you can see. So I do still favor I actually do still favor an upside continuation here. I know I guess it's maybe against the general grain of the market right now, but that's just the statistics and whatnot that I've been looking at. Just basically going off of that. So again, that confirms tonight. And so if Bitcoin does confirm above those levels, again, I do still think it's more likely to try a rally further to the upside than not. And you can kind of see where the medium-term timeframes or the short and medium-term timeframes then meet up with the daily ranges, and then meet up with the 5-day and weekly. And of course, the weekly as well is coming in from a very low angle here. Will be remaining with upside momentum as long as Bitcoin's above 15,800. That obviously closes not tonight, not tomorrow night, but Friday. So be aware of that. Be aware of all of the, conflicts between these different timeframes. And that is probably where I'll leave my analysis for today. So again, long way of saying above 17,100 good, below 16,600 bad. Statistics still continue to favor the upside here, but does not necessarily imply a resolution to the upside just yet. So probably gets us a test there, but until we actually see a closure above, I would not be looking for the next sort of decent medium term time frame leg up. Which then is obviously going to have greater implications into the 5-day and the weekly as those setups start to emerge. Anyways, I think that's going to be it for today's analysis. I want to be wishing you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.